They said I have troll teeth.
That my voice sounded like a possessed baby doll.
That no one would ever love someone as stupid as me.
That I was fat, ugly.
Disgusting.
The effect of bullying is potent.
We will no longer be the silent majority.
Now, when you see online bullying, there's something you can do about it.
We're gonna take action with the I.
I am a witness.
I am a witness.
I am a witness.
I am a witness.
I am a witness, and so are you.
Welcome to Hot Topics, where we discuss the issues that you're talking about in the community. I'm your host, Leah Haslage. Today's topic is on senior citizens being scammed in our community and how it's happening at an alarming rate. Our guests are the Director of Aging here in the city of Cleveland, Mary McNamara, and her wonderful mom, Joanne McNamara. Welcome, ladies, to Hot Topics.
Thank you so much.
Well, first, tell us, what kind of scams are we seeing here in the city of Cleveland? What has the Department of Aging been getting calls on?
I really put scams in 4 buckets. We've got identity theft scams, we've got investment fraud scams, more computer-based scams, and imposter scams. We see more older adults being impacted by imposter scams, but I want to highlight the other 3 if I can.
Yeah,
identity theft is stealing, your personal information. We hear about this through email phishing, through phone calls, getting your personal information, people calling to confirm who you are and collecting information like your social security number. The second are investment fraud scams. So those might be things like that free lunch seminar that you're invited to, or a gold coin, an investment deal that can't be beat. So things to be cautious of. The third, and these are on the rise, are computer-based scams, where you might get an email that says you have a virus on your computer and you need to buy antivirus protection, or you've just won a great travel vacation. It's going to be, a once in a lifetime trip. Or where you might hear from after a disaster in our country, you might get an email from a fake charity that's looking to. So those are common, but we see older adults more impacted by what we call imposter scams.
And what are the imposter scams?
They follow the same format, where you might get a call or an email saying you've won a prize, and they might say they're from a government agency. They might say they're a family member or a friend and they need money right away. So they're posing as someone that you might trust, a family member or a government official.
Are we still seeing the door-to-door scams of people pretending to be police officers or maintenance workers or needing help, knowing that they're a senior citizen, probably alone?
We do see those scams as well. We see those particularly around utility issues. And so that's something we're on alert at the Department of Aging as well.
Now, why are people, particularly over the age of 65, being targeted? Why are they such, maybe not easy targets, but at a more alarming rate than someone of maybe my age?
Sure. Well, I think there's a couple reasons. One, many people think that older adults likely have a little bit of a nest egg, a savings, something that they could tap into and take advantage of. Secondly, we find that older adults may find it more difficult to just hang up the phone on someone, right? They were raised in a generation of being really polite, and if someone calls for you and knows your name, that they wouldn't just hang up right away. They also have good credit in many cases, right? A lifetime of saving and working, and so when someone calls and needs $3,000, they may more likely be able to put their hands on it. We also know for a small percentage of older adults, they may have memory issues and cognitive issues, so they're a group more targeted with that issue. And they're home often during the day, right? And so they're there to answer a phone call from a landline.
Yeah. Now, Joanne has a personal testimony herself where she was targeted by a scam artist. Joanne, can you tell us your personal story?
It was a week ago today, and I got a phone call at 9 o'clock in the morning, 9:15, and this young girl, Grandma, can you help me? I need help bad. I was in this accident and it's my fault and I'm so scared and they're holding me in a holding cell. And I was positive it was my granddaughter. There was no doubt. I mean, it sounded like her, but of course it had to be in my mind. I'm 81 years old and I feel like I'm kind of smart. I mean, I never felt that I would be taken like this. And my granddaughter, who I thought was my granddaughter, said, can I put on the public defender and she'll, help me? She's trying to help me. So I said, of course, honey, of course. I was crying by this time, thinking of my granddaughter in a holding cell.
Right.
I was completely taken in. So the defender came on, public defender, and she said, Catherine was in this accident. She looked down at her phone rang, and she looked down the second time, and she hit the back of a police car. And he's in the hospital. And it's Catherine's fault, and we're holding her in this holding cell. And she said, if you can, help her and get $4,000, I can get the judge to grant her bond to get out. In other words, she would have to stay in 3 days if I didn't get this money. And she said, you cannot tell anybody. I said, well, I could tell her parents. She said, no. She had one phone call, and she picked you. So I'm thinking, my granddaughter in a holding cell, I'm crying, thinking I would do anything to help her, of course. And so she said, I said, I could bring a check. She said, no, we can't take checks. There were so many red flags that I didn't see because I had already talked to my granddaughter.
You're emotional.
Of course.
Yeah.
And she said, I'll tell you exactly what to do. Well, she said, first of all, do you have a credit card? I said, yeah. She said, what is your limit? And I said, I don't know, which I didn't. And then she said, go check your last bill. I mean, she's telling me what to, and I'm doing it. And she said, I only had like a $2,000 limit. She says, well, I'll tell you, go to the bank, get out cash. It has to be cash, $4,000 in cash. And she said, if they ask you at the bank what you need the money for, say it's personal and it's for family. So she said, maybe they won't ask. So she said, then you take the money and go to Home Depot and get 2 gift cards for $2,000 on one, $2,000 on the other, because that's all they would allow you to put on a credit card. And she said, and then go, she said, after that, even use your cell phone from the parking lot and call me with the numbers of the credit cards. So I'm writing all this down. I'm taking it very seriously because my granddaughter, as I think, is in a holding cell, and she's kind of a new driver, and I could picture this happening. And so I hurry up, get in the car, I'm on my way to the bank, and I thought, wait a minute, this doesn't all sound right. So I pulled off, first I called my son, who didn't answer. Then I called the girl's mother, the granddaughter's mother, and I said, is she in school? And she said, yes. And so then I said, I think I've been scammed. So that was the end of it. I did go home. About 20 minutes later, I received a phone call, and she said, this is, I think the name was Jackie Connors. And I just said, I've called the police. Click, she hung up immediately. But luckily, I all of a sudden realized the red flags, that it didn't make complete sense to me.
But again, when it's a family member, you want to be there for them.
I was positive it was her, and it had, I suppose when she's crying and talking, quietly, because she was scared, which I thought. They really had me hook, line, and sinker.
But luckily, in the end, they did not have you, and hopefully your testimony will allow so many of our viewers to understand as well.
That is why I'm testifying, so that maybe somebody else doesn't get caught. Yeah. I hope not.
Thank you so much for sharing that
You're
story.
welcome.
And when we come back, we're going to find out more about how something like that could be prevented and what you can do if you are a victim. So stay tuned for more Hot Topics.
I'm a retired school psychologist, and helping people was my thing. After my stroke, when Meals on Wheels started, I was on the other end of the stick, so to speak. And I appreciated it very much, the attention that was given. My name is Julius Gaines, creative writer, poet, photographer. America, let's do lunch.
Drop off a hot meal and say hello. Volunteer by donating your lunch break at americaletsdolunch.org.
Welcome back to Hot Topics. I'm your host, Leah Hasledge, and we're discussing senior citizens being scammed in our community. And with us again is the Director of Aging here in the city of Cleveland, Mary McNamara, and her mom, Joanne McNamara, who just gave a wonderful testimony on how she herself was almost victimized by a scam artist. So with Joanne's situation, what could have been done to prevent that? What if someone watching is having a similar situation happen?
Sure. Well, I think her story, and it being my own mother's story, reminds me, and I hope everyone, that this can happen to anyone. My mom referenced that she called her son. He's a Cleveland police officer. I'm the director of the Department of Aging. She knows about scams, but they really tapped into her most reliable asset, which is her heart. And they wrapped her into this story that she missed then the red flags of it. And so there are some tips we can tell you about, and then there are also some educational programs people can get engaged in. So first I would say one tip would be, if you were to get an imposter phone call like this, and we hear about this grandparent scam, sometimes it's iTunes gift cards they want, sometimes it's Home Depot gift cards, but gift cards is a red flag. No government agency would ever accept gift cards as a form of payment. And so that should be a red flag. But if you were to get a call from a granddaughter, grandson, something that would be a family member, we'd recommend asking a clarifying question. Like if my mother had asked, you know, was your brother with you in the car? Well, my niece doesn't have a brother. And so that would have been a way to trip up if this was an imposter phone call. Because many people don't want to hang up on what they think could be a family member.
Right.
So you want to ask a question that may be something only you and that loved one would know the answer to.
And someone younger, it's, you know, kind of obvious. They might, hey, Grandma, can I have a gift card? So you're not thinking clearly.
Yes, yes. They really tapped into her heart and her emotion in this. Secondly, I would say that people need to be aware that this can happen, scams can happen by way of strangers, but they can also happen by way of family members and friends. So these, unfortunately, aren't just all strangers that can start these scams and take advantage of your financial situation. Thirdly, I'd say don't isolate yourself. In my mother's case, she's reached out to people afterwards. She reached out to folks to find out, has this happened to you? Stay connected. Senior centers often bring in speakers on this subject because this is on the rise. And so not to isolate yourself, to reach out to older adults, other older adults, family members, friends. If you think you've been taken advantage of in a scam, you want to reach out for help and one, verify it. Two, find out what steps you can take to clear up what's happened, so not to isolate yourself. You mentioned earlier that salespeople who might come to the door or you might get a phone call. If you didn't initiate this phone call or this reaching out for a contractor or whomever to come to your house, don't give them personal information. Unless you've made that initiating phone call, you don't want to give out your personal information. Fifth, I would say shred, shred, shred. Any of your personal documents that have things like your address on it, account numbers, you know, a partial number of your Social Security, shred, shred, shred. And whether that's your own personal shredder or many agencies in town offer shredding opportunities, whether through our own waste department or through the Better Business Bureau. There's also the do not call list. So if people haven't signed up for that, to reduce the number of telemarketing calls, we'd recommend that, and we'll share that information on hopefully through the screen so people can write down that number. Never give out credit card, banking, Social Security, Medicare, any other information over the phone. unless you've initiated that call where you're calling Social Security, you're calling your Medicare plan. But if someone calls asking you for that, don't give that out. And if they ask for that, you can, one, get their phone number back, ask them for a phone number to reach them back at, and then you could call an agency to find if this is a trusted entity. You've got it. And then we would say, and I would say this to my mom, be skeptical of all unrequested offers of help. Reach out for help, right? If this can happen to my own mother, it can happen to anyone out there. And while I don't want people to not be trusting in this, in our community, just asking people to be skeptical. Yeah. If it's too good to be true, it probably is. You got it. You got
the
it.
saying still holds true.
You got it.
I just want to kind of back up a little bit. You had mentioned with your own family members could sometimes be the actual scam artist. You had questions of ways to verify if it's a stranger. What can you do to verify if it's your own family member?
It's a great question. So one thing I would say about that is making sure when you get bank statements, bills, any financial transaction, that you're really thoroughly looking at those each month. If you were to see a charge that wasn't familiar to you, that could be a professional scam artist, or it could be a family member using your credit card, expecting that you're not going to look at the bill that thoroughly. And so if you're concerned, first, in our community, there's Adult Protective Services, and in any community, Adult Protective Services is a means to report if you think you're a victim of financial exploitation. I'd also recommend you can always call the Department of Aging for someone to bounce an idea off of, verify, get good advice. We get calls like this, unfortunately, Leah, we get it every day from people who aren't sure who to turn to, and we want to be a local trusted resource for people.
Now, if someone has been victimized, what steps can they take?
Sure. Well, if you've been a victim, we want to make sure that you call the Cleveland Police Department. They have a financial crimes unit, and so that's very specifically looking at financial crimes. Also in the city, we have the Office of Fair Housing and Consumer Affairs, where you can report that too. So you've got the police, you've got Consumer Affairs as two agencies you can report it to. And then if you want, there's other ways to get information. AARP has a fraud alert network that's happening all around the country, where they have peer counselors that you can call and get information about, was this a scam or was it not? They also, we recommend to anyone to take advantage of the free credit report once a year to make sure that the charges, things being charged against your name, are something you've wanted and verified. So that resource is available too. And in the county, we're part of a large network called the Scam Squad. So this is not just happening to one senior occasionally. This is happening every day to seniors, and people are losing thousands and thousands of dollars. So it's a county-wide effort called the Scam Squad.
Well, hopefully this also will help so many seniors not get scammed. We'll have the information out there. And do you have any closing remarks that either one of you would like the viewers to know here in the Cleveland community?
I would just like it to help other people from not being taken in like I was taken in, to check it out before you release any money. Or
yes.
And I would just add that this entire community wants to empower older adults with information and support, and so we're here to help.
Well, thank you both so much for being here on Hot Topic. I know I've learned a lot today, and I'm sure our viewers at home have as well. And we'll have additional information not only on the Department of Aging website, but also at tv20cleveland.com. I'm your host, Leah Hasledge, and thank you again for watching Hot Topics.